Hey guys, TechAgent, we're back with more headphones or whatever this thing is. When I made the K1000 video, I said, nah, that's it. No more weird headphones. Sigma video, that's gonna be the last one. But I think the more I say that, the more weird headphones I start buying. And this is, I think, the weirdest of them all. This is the Precide ERGO 1. Now, I did not know this headphone existed. Like 2 days before I bought this headphone, I had no idea. But the ERGO 1 is a very fascinating headphone because surprisingly this headphone is still in production, and I just think that's amazing because who is buying this headphone? I don't understand. Now, I don't mean to hate on Precide and what they've done as a company, but I don't think their business plan was, or their product launches and stuff, and just the way they made their headphones was a very smart way of having a good working business. They still make stuff, but at the same time, nobody buys this stuff except people like me who buy these headphones for shit and giggles. That, like, only people like us buy these headphones, and that's sad because this headphone sounds absolutely mesmerizing. Let's go over the history of this headphone a little bit. Precide was the manufacturer for Jacqueline Float. If you are a headphone enthusiast, you know Jacqueline Float is the sexiest headphone ever made, and Precide used to manufacture the Jacqueline Floats until Jacqueline Floats were discontinued, and the Quad started manufacturing the Jacqueline Floats, the Quad Floats, whatever they call that, the new one, which apparently sound pretty good. But Precide, said, okay, let Quad, do their stuff. We'll launch the ERGO line of headphones, which they made before the new Quad headphone came out. But the ERGO 1, the one I'm showing you guys right now, is the dynamic one. The ERGO 2 is again dynamic, having a different diaphragm. And then you have the ERGO AMT, which is the air motion transformer transducer used in that headphone. Now, the AMT driver, is one of my, is developed by one of my inspirations, one of my heroes in the headphone world, Dr. Oscar Heal. One of the most important inventors in the audio industry. But the ERGO 1 is having the Jacqueline Float housing, but with an electrodynamic transducer inside. I think this is one of the most least engineered headphones ever made, because if you open it up, which I have done, and you can see the pictures, you'll see that the engineering gone behind this headphone is almost non-existent. The drivers, they are just glued into place. They're using thick foam. This breaks down. My foam completely wore out, and that kind of sucks. But it's pretty expected. If you're using bare foam like that without any upholstery, this will be subject to a lot of weathering, and it just will completely break down. And that's exactly what has happened with my pair. Even the driver covering of the foam started to wear down, and I had to replace it with a cloth type material. Surprisingly, the way you wear this headphone, which I'm gonna do just for you wear this headphone like this, and I know it looks stupid, but it sounds pretty good. You have to trust me on that. The drivers are placed on the sides, so more than the having the foam, it's the exact position that's important. So once you find the right spot where the fidelity is optimum, that's it. That's all you gotta do. These foams, they were just basically supports. They're not ear pads or anything like that, so they did not have any sealing characteristic to them. They were just there to guide you where to place the headphones on your head, and the drivers are right there. So the ideal spot is the most important thing, then everything else comes. So once you get the ideal spot, how is the sound, how is the fidelity? Now, the driver inside, I think, is a 60 mm electrodynamic transducer, just a very generic looking driver. It looks like a cheap Chinese driver, but those drivers are not bad once they're optimized in a good chamber. And with this, the genius behind this is that the chamber is designed in a way, even though it's like this, there is a lot of hidden potential of these drivers coming out because of such an open design. And since the drivers itself the diaphragm itself is very very stiff, it is capable of some pretty good high frequency reproduction. It sounds pretty good. I'm going to compare this headphone to two of, I think, reasonably priced headphones in the same category. You can buy for the price of the ERGO ones Those go for 150 euros. You can buy a 990 used for same price. This is edition 600 and you can also buy the HD 598. Now in my opinion, the Ergo one sounds better than both of these headphones, and that is pretty amazing in my opinion. So the sound quality of this headphone is absolutely fantastic. There is a very strong 2 kilohertz peak, which I think comes from the fact that the way it's placed on your head. I mean, that peak really starts to accentuate, on the ideal listening spot. It will differ if you move your head around, move your ears around the surface area, but on the ideal spot, the 2 kilohertz peak, really accentuates a lot, and you have to fix that. You have to correct that. Otherwise, this headphone is almost unlistenable. The bass, just the quality and overall, extension is pretty fantastic. This headphone is capable of some amazing bass after correction. Overall, just the headphone after correction just sounds like a clean headphone. I mean, there's the best way to describe it sounds like a bar dynamic Tesla one, but slightly cleaner sounding. Doesn't have the the lack of mid-range body, and it's just a clean, full sounding headphone, and that's absolutely amazing, because you would not expect for something that looks this hideous and is optimized. The chamber is optimized for electrostatic and AMD transducers. So whatever Precide has done with this headphone, even though it looks absolutely stupid and nobody will buy this headphone, it sounds pretty incredible. And I think that's that should be mentioned, because there is no market for this headphone. There is, the high-end market itself is very small, and when you launch these kind of headphones, which these are not statement headphones. This is not like the Stack Sigma, which was, which had that design, that chamber for for some function. With this, they just had an off-the-shelf chamber, and they just had to implement an electrodynamic transducer inside. So there's no engineering gone behind this headphone, yet it sounds absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the best headphones I've heard in a very long time. I think it's the best headphone you can buy under $500. I would pick this over the HD 650 and all of those. I would pick this over the Biodynamic DT990. I would pick it over the 880. It sounds that good, and the 880s for me have been like the pinnacle of dynamic transducers under $500. But I think the Ergo ones, even though they use a cheap Chinese driver or something like that, Precide says they make it in-house, but it doesn't look like that way. It still sounds absolutely incredible, and the Precide Ergo one, I think, is one of the best headphones I have ever heard in a very long time. Let's talk about the cable itself now. Cable is the same cable you find in the Ergo 2 and the AMT. It's a nice ribbon style flat cable. 4 conductor cable, goes into like a nice 1/4 inch. This is a 100 ohm headphone, so it's relatively easy to drive. I mean, the leakage on this headphone is pretty minimal. It leaks almost as low as something like the DT880. Sounds like a semi-open headphone in terms of leakage. So because your ears are so close, the SPL, at your DRP, I mean, you don't need a high SPL, to get a sound. For example, the K1000s, because of the distance, you exceed the SPL, and that can be heard in the surrounding, just like the Sigma. But with this, since your drum reference point, of your eardrums is so close, you just keep the SPL so low that the leakage is very minimal, and that's pretty amazing, I think. So it doesn't leak as much. It looks like it would leak a lot, but it does not. The cable goes into a nice 1/4 inch plug. I like this cable. It's a bit long, and I think I could have done a removable system, but I just didn't bother. I just wanted to keep it like that. The foams do wear out, but if I get an AMT or Ergo 2 in the future, I have a video or a plan in mind if I get an AMT, so I'll make a video on it if if that time ever comes, so that way I can have the support structures, but not made up of this cheap foam, made up of memory foam and upholstered in some kind of material, because bare foam and weathering, it's a bad thing. So overall, the Ergo ones are absolutely fantastic. History of this headphone, I think this was launched in the late 90s. The earliest date I could find from Precide's website was 2003, where they were shown at some sort of a trade show, but I think these were made before that. The Quad, the new Jacqueline floats, whatever the name is, I forget the name, but those came in 2013 or something like that. So the Ergos have been around for a long time, and although they have not been a success, and I think they are absolutely hideous, they do sound pretty incredible for the price, and they are a unique headphone. I think every headphone collector like me should own a pair. So it's absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna try my best to get my hands on the Ergo AMT, which are pretty expensive. I mean, those go for like €1,000 and stuff. So I'll try to get those, and I'll do a comparison video because I'm really interested in checking out the AMT, because I heard very polarizing reviews, because AMTs usually don't measure that well. They measure something like a DD48. It's a very weird measurement reading you get out of those headphones. So I'm interested to seeing how they sound after some correction. So Ergo ones, I love these headphones. They're made in Switzerland, surprisingly. It's weird, but I like this headphone. Take it easy, and like always, have a good one. All right.